This is the February 8th meeting of the Darien Beautification Commission, and we will kick off. It is 9:02. We have 4 of us in person and 3 dialing in, so we have everybody available. The first thing I want to do is just have our minutes from December 14 approved, just to get that out of the way. So Elizabeth is motioning to approve. Second, Sarah, thank you. All right, now I said we'd go on to straight onto the presentation. So this morning we have Thomas Hall, who's Elizabeth's son, and Eric Horn, and they are going to tell us about the work that they have started, which is eco-friendly landscaping, robotic lawn mowing, and so we're going to learn about that and see if we can learn something. And our meeting is televised, and it's people can either watch live or they can listen afterwards. So there could be a number of people in Darien who will be listening and maybe learning as well, like us. So thank you. Hand it over to you.
Yeah, thank you so much for having us. As Juliet said, I'm Elizabeth's son, and I work with Eric at his company managing some of the content and marketing efforts. And yeah, luckily we have our founder here, Eric.
Oh, actually, before you go on, so for everyone on the phone, I know it might be difficult for anyone who's in a car, but there is a link for you to look at the presentation they're about to give. And what I'll do, I can't see myself on the screen, but I think you can probably see me. I'm going to turn my laptop so that you can look at the presentation as it's live here on the projector. So tell me if I need to go left or right or anything. I think this should work. Anyway, so otherwise just listen.
Yeah.
Can you see the presentation?
Tracy?
Yeah.
Can you see it? Can you see this?
I don't see anything. I just see me.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, just as long as you can hear, that's the main thing.
And you can open the link that I sent.
Yeah, and there's a link that
I
Elizabeth
see it.
sent.
I have it on my go-to meeting.
Okay,
Oh, perfect.
You can also send the deck after.
Thank you.
Okay, so yeah, thank you, Thomas, for setting up this meeting, and thank you for hosting us.
Oh, sure.
Yes. So I'm Eric Horn. I'm from Norway. I moved with my family to US 7 years ago. At that time, I was in finance. I worked for a bank in the city. I had 2 young kids, and after a year, we moved from the city and to Old Greenwich, where we live now. What was shocking was after a couple of weeks, we moved into a house. A landscaping company comes in, and we were shocked about the noise and the emissions, alongside with the landscaping services. Back home, we were used to robotic lawnmowers. We were used to battery equipment, no gas at all. If, for instance, a neighbor would come in with some gas equipment, he would be very quickly, hey, let's change.
That's amazing.
Yes.
I have no idea.
So what here was like really, we knew about all this equipment somewhere else, and it was completely fine with all the noise and emission. So we quickly turned into, we got a robotic lawnmower, and we quickly turned in our property into all battery equipment and robots. Now, what we were surprised about was all of a sudden, all the neighbors actually had the same problem with the noise. They just didn't know about other possibilities.
Okay.
So that grew quickly. So all of a sudden we started offering robotic lawn mowing as a service, as a subscription service, and other services with battery equipment. And that grew, and then all of a sudden we had a company. I was still in my job. Fast forward, I quit my final job, and now I'm a landscaper.
Dream job.
Yes. So our company, we offer robotic mowing, all emission-free battery equipment alongside, because we've seen that most of our customers, they like the robotic mowing, but they also need other services. And all of a sudden, then they need 2 companies. So we offer all gardening service across the board, organic materials, and battery equipment. Yeah, and again, what I mentioned, green now is all about the zero emission and zero noise. And now while we are here, last year we had a very successful project or partnership with Town of Greenwich. So they partner up with us, with Green Now, doing their lawn outside Greenwich Town Hall with robotic lawnmowers. And that was very successful, and now we're looking to expand on that. And
Have you seen an increase in interest in your business, or just your competitors changing as a result of there have been ordinances or resolutions passed by a number of towns to stop?
yes, so when I started this 4 years ago, it was very kind of new. Like all, battery equipment was new, robot was new. Now, over the last couple of years, we've really seen a uptick in incoming inquiries. So yeah, like our limitation is the capacity of people.
Wow.
Yes, so we have a long waiting list with customers that want to come on board with full service robotics. So we are just looking for more people.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, so again, there's one problem with landscaping service here. Obviously, we all know it's the noise and the emissions. Now, it's interesting because the solution is here. Like we have electric cars, we have other electric equipment, but landscaping companies still tend to stick to their gas. So when this transition is going to happen is when actually homeowners are going to ask for the change. And we are seeing that happening now. And that's very important that everyone is now asking their landscape, whether it's us coming directly to us or asking their landscaping company, change, we would like that you come to us with battery equipment.
Yeah, and some towns have actually passed bans on gas-powered equipment. Our town hasn't.
Exactly. So either you can come from more from the town, or at some point, customers are normally is very much in charge of that how fast that transition. If you will tell your landscaper, you better change the battery, otherwise I'm going to change the green now.
Yeah.
He will probably change. It's that easy. So we should not accept gasoline equipment anymore. And now we also have an even more efficient way of doing mowing, which is with robotic lawnmowers. And the second thing is obviously, if you do care about your landscaper, you should encourage him or her to change the battery, because it's extremely unhealthy for these landscapers to stay, they deal with equipment 10, 12 hours a day, all the noise, all the emission. So yeah, it's important, and when we see landscapers coming to our company, all of a sudden after a couple of months, nice, we're sleeping better, less headache, it's just better and healthier people.
And a lot of spills too, aren't there, from when they're putting gas into their equipment.
Tons of spills.
It goes into the ground, it goes into the water.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. So solution is, and in particular what we're going to discuss here for mowing, is robotic lawn mowing. It's fully automatic. It reduces the labor. It reduces the better health for the labor. Environmentally friendly, no emission and no noise. You can have it running at night, in the morning, as well as it's economically especially for bigger fields, like for towns, for bigger organizations. You can have a couple robotic lawnmowers instead of having several people coming to the field and do the mowing. Lastly, it's also your lawn is going to be a lot nicer.
So I have a question. How does it know? It just senses grass and then it stops when it gets to the edge?
Correct. So how we set it up, so we do a boundary wire around the field, which can be a pretty complex installation. It depends about, whether it's a backyard with a lot of trees, with trampolines, different things. Or it can be an easy installation with, like a sports field like here, boundary wire around, and the mower will work within that boundary wire.
And it's not, people don't trip over it. It's not.
No, and it also slows down when it moves towards an obstacle, and it will also remember where it has been every day.
Oh.
So you schedule it, and let's say this sports field here at Darien needs 7 hours every day of the robot to mow. So you can choose. Let's say you have sports activities, during 3 p.m. to 8 p.m. So you make it to start mowing. It's on a time schedule at, let's say, at 11 p.m. runs the whole night, and then 7 a.m. it's perfectly cut. So every morning you'll have a perfectly cut sports field, yeah.
But that's amazing, because I think that the labour involved in mowing, conventionally.
Yeah, it's a huge, and especially now when you have labour shortage, it's a huge win for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
And again, if you think, so we have had some push from unions, etc.
Mm-hmm.
But again, the robot is not taking jobs; it's just shifting jobs.
Yeah,
there's just so much to do in every town. So if your workers don't have to mow anymore, they can work on some beds or some tree cutting, or it just shifts the labor to a little bit more maybe skillful.
They could plant trees.
Yes,
Yes.
I can plant trees.
Yeah.
And then we're just going to show you this short video
Oh,
just
great.
to get you give you a better idea how it
Yeah.
actually works and everything. Yeah.
Basically, Husqvarna Automower consists of 3 parts: the mower, the charging station, and the boundary wire. Husqvarna Automower works inside an electronic fence created by a loop signal sent from the charging station through the boundary wire. When Automower tries to pass the wire, it detects the signal, stops, and continues in another direction. Husqvarna Automower works fully automatically. When batteries run low, it has several ways that it will ensure it always returns to the charging station. It can follow a radio signal sent from the charging station. It can follow a guide wire. And it can also follow the boundary wire back to the charging station. When the battery is fully charged, it returns to work without your intervention. The boundary wire is laid around the area to be mowed, ensuring that Automower will never work outside this area, and the robotic mower will pass so-called islands. Husqvarna Automower has a collision sensor. When it hits something, it will stop and change direction. It is designed to regularly handle gentle bumps, which means that obstacles like trees and walls don't need to be fenced by the boundary wire. Husqvarna Automower has a guide wire.
I think that's just the one.
What's the average battery life in one?
So it depends about the capacity of the robot, but the biggest one for the commercial normally runs for 5 hours,
Oh, right.
and then goes back to charging station, charges for an hour, and goes out again.
Yeah,
And
so
then everything is automatic.
yeah, it doesn't just stop after 5 hours. It
Correct. Yeah, you don't have to
to
manually move. Yeah, so it sensors is low on battery, it goes
It's
back.
magic, isn't
Yes.
So I have a Roomba, so I get the general idea.
Okay.
My Roomba doesn't have like a plan. It does, but it bumps into things and
Yeah,
moves
yeah.
around. What happens if there's a tree limb down or something that's not expected to be there? Will it sense that that's there and then go back?
So it does
How
sense
it figure that out?
obstacles,
Mhm.
but it will also it slows down
Mhm.
and then it very gently hits the
Mhm.
obstacle and then it turns around. So let's say for most you can see it's the cover around is very low. So most of the obstacles it will just hit and then turn around.
Mhm.
So if it's a tree down, hits it, turn around. But of course, after a storm, it's and that's what the service we provide, that we on a 24/7 basis, we remotely monitor all of these robots. And we get, if something happens to them, let's say there's a storm, lots of branches are, on different fields, lawns, and they get stuck somewhere, we come out, move the branch, and hit drive. So we are remotely, and you also can do that, can remotely monitor the robots. And if something happens, you will get an error message.
Do you want to get back to the presentation?
Yeah.
It won't connect because
Yeah.
Bad streaming?
But I think that was like a pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah, you saw the pictures.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Just in terms of safety and security, how heavy are the machines? And I'm wondering both, like if a child was curious and approached it and tried to handle it,
Yeah.
and then also at night, safety issue. We have a lot of problem with theft in this town. Like what prevents somebody taking it?
Yeah, that's a good question. So first of all, in terms of safety, in Europe, there's been sold millions of these robotic lawnmowers. And what they see is there's a lot more injuries and accidents with the normal mowing machines as opposed to the robots. It's just less human beings in contact with the robot than the bigger machines. Now, for kids or anyone, there's 3 small blades under the mower, very, very small. So if you just take it in a little bit of an angle, it stops. So it's literally impossible the blades are not running if you are turning it upside down or moving it. So there is very, very, very little, it's fully safe.
Is it heavy?
It's about 20 pounds. It's easy
so a
to,
small chunk.
yeah, but it's easy to carry around for an adult, but for a kid, it's hard to turn around. In terms of theft, it's the same as Find My iPhone. So you can there's an alarm, there's a PIN code, there's a GPS on it. So if someone takes it, you know where the robot goes. We have more than 100 robots out of different properties and fields around here. We still haven't seen any thefts. But yeah, I'm sure one day we'll see someone taking it. But that mower will be locked. It can't be used again, and you will see where it is. So you can easily call someone to find it.
Thought of everything.
Yeah, exactly.
So during the summer months, the grass grows really quickly, and you leave the grass behind. Do you have a problem with the clippings accumulating?
No, so that's the huge benefit of the robots. You'll never have the grass growing too long. So what normally happens now, you have your mowing, you do your mowing once a week. During those months where it really grows, it normally grows too high, and then they cut too much off the grass blade. Now what happens? You stress the grass. Because you cut too much off the grass blade, you need more water and you need more fertilization. With the robot, it just nibbles the grass. So you run it every day, so you will always have it in a perfect height. So let's say your grass type, your preference is 3 inches. You put it on 3 inches, and it will keep that lawn perfectly at 3 inches.
And then the clippings are small enough that they should stay on the lawn.
Correct,
anyway,
and the
because
very
they
small
keep
clippings just goes down
Yeah.
to the soil, works as a natural fertilizer.
Yeah.
So what we see over time is you will have greener grass, more healthy grass. You will even save on water because it's just more healthy grass. Yeah.
So interesting.
Yeah.
Great, so I thought I'd talk a little bit about the emissions here because I know this is a very environmentally conscious group. So this is the earliest study I could find because there's not, or the most recent one because there's not a whole lot about studying the emissions of mowers, but in 2011, 26.7 million tons of pollutants were emitted by gasoline-powered lawn and garden equipment like mowers and weed whackers. And one gas mower contributes about 88 pounds of greenhouse gases and 34 pounds of other pollutants each year. And also, one interesting thing I found when researching about this is something that's not studied at all here is transporting massive pieces of mowers and like all this huge garden equipment, that's not calculated in these at all. So that's something else to keep in mind, just driving these huge trucks from place to place. And gas mowers use about half a gallon to 2 gallons of gas each hour. And I think it's a little closer to 2 with commercial mowers, because I think half is probably like your average push mower you'd use at home. And then mowing is estimated to represent 5% of all air pollution in the US, and that's about 24 to 45% of all non-road emissions.
That's huge.
Yeah, so that's a pretty substantial
It makes
number.
sense because
Yeah.
grass is the biggest crop that's grown in the
Yeah.
US.
Yeah,
Right.
Grass
totally.
is bigger than wheat, anything.
Yeah,
And you can't even eat it. Or we can.
yeah, exactly.
It makes no sense.
Uh-huh. And then this is something I found during my research, which I found fascinating. So one of the pollutants that mowers release is fine particulate matter. And I found this study by Harvard School of Public Health that said an increase of only 1 microgram, which is, I believe it's like a millionth of a gram in a cubic meter of particulate matter, is associated with an 8% increase in the COVID death rate. So by cutting out gas mowers, you'd be substantially reducing the levels of these particulate matters in the air, and then the COVID death rate would go down. Whereas on the other side, if you have like all these gas mowers going, people who have COVID have a higher death rate, which is quite frightening, I think.
Yeah.
That's really interesting because I'm always talking about trees, but trees help to filter that particulate matter.
Yep.
So when you have areas, with these kinds of emissions, and you don't have enough trees, you exacerbate that
Yeah.
as well.
It goes right into the lungs.
Yeah.
Right?
And then I'll touch on noise pollution too. So Eric mentioned this, but workers who operate these gas-powered mowers, especially the commercial ones, they're much louder than the homeowner's mower. They're at a higher risk of hearing loss. And like a lot of the negative effects of climate change, this affects mostly like low-income workers, who are a lot of the people who are operating this heavy machinery. And just to give you an idea how loud that is, like, lawnmowers produce a noise of about 100 decibels at the source and 75 decibels 500 feet away. And 100 decibels is equal to the sound of a jet taking off 304 meters away. So you can just imagine how loud that is. And that's 8 times as loud as a car driving 65 miles per hour down the highway.
And sometimes my neighbour has a plot that's not much bigger than mine. They have 2 big mowers come at the same time.
Yeah.
Right.
And I've been on my deck, and on the phone I have to go inside, shut the doors, move to another one.
Right.
Yeah.
It's so loud.
That's terrible.
Yeah.
You
And
never get that quietness like
No.
is outside
No.
today.
No, you
If
don't.
someone
Definitely not.
nearby is always, myself
Yes.
included, mowing.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
There's always someone.
Yeah. And I work at home a lot too, so during the summer I have to put on my big headphones and like blast classical music or whatever, some kind of white noise, just to
Drives
be able
me
to
crazy.
focus on my work.
Well, I have to go out and compete. I have an electric mower. I don't have a robotic one. I have an electric one, and I go out, and I think they don't notice me because they can't.
Yeah.
hear.
Yeah.
I'm not making any noise.
You have an electric mower.
I do.
That's
yes,
great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Nice.
obviously
good.
this is even better. But I don't actually have much lawn. I've been encroaching on my lawn, for this, partly for this reason, just
Mhm.
to try and plant more plants, more trees, and get rid of the lawn.
Yeah,
But,
that's great.
I think it's going to be very hard, but we're culturally, needy. These lawns are status symbols around here.
Yeah.
The bigger your lawn, the better kept, and yours, somebody's. And I think it's harder to change that than it is to just get people to maintain them differently.
Mhm.
And I think if people can see that this is a kind of constant maintenance, then and it improves the quality, I think it's kind of
Yeah.
a win.
Yeah.
Totally.
Except for people who just really like to be out there working with their
Yeah.
machinery.
For sure, yeah.
Yeah.
But that might change over time.
Mhm.
Could take something also like government grants to landscaping companies to get the material,
Yeah.
purchase the new equipment.
Yeah.
There was an article in the Darien paper, but it was one of the articles that's written for Hearst by the state that goes in all the different town papers. Does anyone remember it? It was probably 2 months ago, and it was a town in Connecticut trying to propose one of those bills.
It was Westport probably.
Yeah, I can't
Yeah.
remember any details, but it was interesting the arguments being made against doing it, not by homeowners, but by landscapers.
It's expensive.
Yeah, and
to
I,
switch probably.
yeah.
But you could do it gradually. You could just get rid of, say, one noisy mower and have one electric one, and just do it over time. And then, there's also, I mean, there are grants all the time that the state gives out. It may be that you could squish something like this into an application, but I just don't know. I mean, I don't know how many landscapers are looking for that kind of thing.
Right.
Or even if it's, even if they're eligible for commercial. But let's see. I think this is fantastic.
Yeah, and then again, we mentioned last year we had a partnership with Greenwich Town Hall. I think they were the very first town around here getting on board with robotic lawnmowers. So we had a bigger event.
Oh yeah.
And you can just see first of all, it was a huge success. All the people there that have been working with it, mowing, park and recreation for like 30 years, they were like, this is the future. There's like no way manual labor and a machine can beat this robot. And that's what we've seen in Europe, and we see, they're out on golf courses, they're outside retirement homes, hospitals, they're like everywhere. And I think we all see, you can go into different shops, and it's just the technology just automates more and more processes. And with landscaping, mowing in particular, robots is the product. And in terms of publicity, and there is a lot of publicity in terms of different media.
I think I saw it on Instagram.
Yeah.
Remember that picture, the ribbon cutting?
Yes. Newspaper journalists. And it's great. And one thing is the publicity for the town, but it's something about leading by example and encouraging homeowners to kind of follow after, right?
Yes.
So we saw tons of inquiries after this.
Well, to me, that's always the case. If any town, has a stated policy or supports these initiatives, then residents take notice of that. It's very, very influential. And I always try to promote here that, if the town starts and people will follow, it's much harder to have an edict and make residents do things, or have non-profits try to get residents to do things when there's no example set by the town. And this is phenomenal.
Example, So someone get a lead on, and here is just a quick list of some of the support.
So that's actually, can you just go back? That's actually a really good example of partnerships. I've tried to have the town partner with, I'm sure about Pollinator Pathway here, and been urging them to set up a tree conservancy or tree advisory board. And once you have those sort of cornerstones working together, then you end up with something like this.
Yes.
We have a sustainability advisory committee as well. I mean, our commission has partnered with them. We partner with Parks and Recs to do various things. I think this is really instructive. I think what we should do is I'll just send our recording of this meeting to Pangiri, for example.
Oh yeah,
and just say it's something to think about for the future.
Did Greenwich start off by purchasing one robotic mower for the town hall property, or?
Yes, they were first out, so we actually did a demo from I think it was from July for 3 months. A demo to kind of show how things works, figure out the exact partnership between their workers, our workers, and then throughout that demo period we found that perfect partnership.
It's fabulous.
Are you talking to our Park and Recs department as well?
Hopefully soon.
Okay, good. Yeah, and then also
Yes.
country clubs. I mean, there's
Yeah,
I'm going to
there's
send this
and-
video to the
Yeah.
to Pangiri.
Yeah.
Yeah. conversations.
Did Greenwich purchase the mowers, or do they lease them? How does that
So
work?
that's in process now. So with bigger organizations, so with homeowners, we started out leasing out the robots. Now it's become so popular. So for a small company like us, we can't. Our financing costs are normally high. We're startup higher than most of the homeowners. So now more and more customers are purchasing them, and especially for commercial usage, they are purchasing them. And we also see most companies have bigger budget for actually capital to buy
If they purchase Husqvarna in a hardware store,
we sell them too.
you sell them. Would you then, let's say they purchase them from somewhere else, they could still use you to install the...
Correct, and then I think that's the last slide, but you would purchase the robot, we would install it, and then we would service it.
Right.
So we would make sure that robot, or we guarantee that it works 24/7, it's a 24 hours, service call guarantee. If something happens to it, we have backups. It will just replace them. It's like leasing a car. You're fully covered.
Right.
End of season, we will pick up the robot, take it to our storage place. We'll run software updates, clean them, and then beginning of the season, which is normally, now it seems soon. But end of March we'll come back, put up the charging station robot, make sure it works. And then the service program is every 6 weeks we will have one of our robot technicians coming to site to just make sure the robot works, change blades, do all that maintenance work. So basically what you do, you purchase a robot and then you outsource all the maintenance work to us robot technicians, and then you shift your labors to some more fun work, working on some beds. Yes. And then so that's really a program. And here we have, this is really from our operation. We do collect. We look at all the CO2 emissions from each town. So we record everything we do, and this is really where we are so far. And you can
How do you calculate the CO2 saved?
So that's basically, we assume you have a gasoline mower, and it's basically what Thomas said here. We know that it's X gallons of gas per acre or more.
Okay.
So let's say we are covering 50 acres of lawns. We put that in the equation.
Okay.
And through what we also have, we have a software that, this is more for homeowners, but we have a software that sends out messages to the customers about how much they're saving. So they have a profile, they can log in, see how much noise they have saved, how much CO2, and you're trying to engage customers.
I think that's a really good idea because you can look at the environmental problems overall and just say, I'm to kill myself because this is just terrible. But if you feel you are able to do something and you're contributing and know that other people are contributing, then it all adds up, and it's very fortifying.
Correct. Yeah, and I think engaging people. We all know about different sports apps. So we have leaderboard, Strava. So we're trying to move into more like engage homeowners and creating these different types of leaderboards that everyone sees what town is doing the most, maybe down the streets or whatever. How far you can drill down. So and then we don't have Darien on that plan here yet.
Do you have any customers in Darien?
We have a waiting list with several homes from Darien.
Okay, so we have potential students.
So yes, you will be on this table next year. But again, we have the capacity that has limited us, and we try to be more. Last year, we tried to really be more dense in terms of where we go to just make sure we are efficient. So we hope Darien is coming on board. Yes.
Fantastic. Well, thank
Yeah.
you so much.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
Yeah.
This looks great.
Really, really interesting.
And
Yeah.
your pricing structure is somewhere online?
Yes, so it's online. We're also happy to, talk on email or phone call. Our robot technicians normally comes out to your, for private homes, comes to your home, just do a quick look. Normally they can give a quote just looking at on Google Map. If there's a lot of trees covering or harder to see, they'll come to your property, non-binding quote.
And hilly, like if you have hills and stuff like that?
We have robots. We have 4-wheel drives. We have robots that pretty much can cover anything.
Interesting, great.
And as bigger lawn you have, as more economical it is. And then, this is the future. So you will have a quiet lawn and a just more healthy grass with the robotics.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you. Thank you
Yes.
so much. It's really, really
Thank you for
interesting.
having us.
That's okay. We are thrilled to learn all this. And we will...
Thank you.
Thank you for coming online.
Thrilled people.
And let us know if you have any questions. Reach
We
out.
will, thank
Yes.
you. And we'll certainly, let our Parks and Recs, our Public Works Department know
Yeah.
this is available.
Yeah.
And we'll see. We can't guarantee anything, but it's all educational. It's educational for us as residents, and it'll be educational for...
Yeah.
How
Yeah, thank you.
long did it
Yeah.
take in Greenwich from the time you guys first, presented to them to it happening in the fall? How long did that whole process take?
April to July.
Okay,
But
that's
they were
quick.
pretty quick. There were some other obstacles. We could have executed quicker. But they were pretty quick, I think. I'm pretty much on board fast, yeah.
It seems hard to me to raise an objection, but...
It's very hard to say no. It's,
Exactly, the first 2 minutes.
yeah.
We like the noise, we like
Yes.
using gas. We like
Yeah, my husband's
Oh.
in Ireland and saw them on the golf courses there. We have
Yeah.
friends in Portchester using them. I
Yeah.
feel like they're gonna.
It's definitely like, yes.
Yeah.
It's very much, with all the technology, when it comes, it's very sticky.
Yeah.
It's like an electric
Yeah.
car. If I have an electric car, you're not going to go back. We don't have any homeowners that have, of course, we've had a homeowner moving somewhere and canceling the subscription, but to this date, after 4 years, we have no homeowners that have canceled and go back to the normal gasoline.
Right.
So, yeah.
How long is the wait?
The wait?
You said you have a wait list.
Yes. We're just staffing up now. So hopefully we can start, new customers in April. But it's hopefully, April.
Fabulous.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so
Yeah,
much.
thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Yeah, that was amazing.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Elizabeth, that was great. Thank you so much for suggesting it. I think wonderful. All right, so we skipped one item, and wasn't trying to be mysterious with the agenda item saying resignation, but it's my resignation, and I'm going to be resigning. I think at the end of the month is what I told the Board of Selectmen, but I haven't heard back from them. So,
Okay.
and I sent my resignation in about 10 days ago, and silence. So I'm going to assume that that's the case. So I said I would do this meeting. And I also submitted the annual report. Every year we have to do that. And I'm happy to chat to you about any of those sort of projects that I've forgotten to tell you about, like the annual report.
Oh, thanks. I just saw this morning.
I
It looks
know,
great.
I
I scanned
sent
through it. I didn't actually read it.
No,
but it
that's
looks
fine.
beautiful. Yeah.
What had happened, I had totally forgotten about it because during COVID, Linda O'Leary let us all off, a little the commissions off, and said we didn't need to do an annual report. So then it completely slipped my mind, and then she sent a note the other day saying, we need annual reports. So I just
And
put
those
it
are due
together.
when?
And actually, it's a very, very good exercise because you can think of maybe one or two things that we've done, and then when you have to sit down and think of everything, it's actually a lot. And I was really not surprised, but I was really happy to see how much we'd actually accomplished. And that's without the revitalisation of the adopter garden, because we do it for the fiscal year, so it's July to June.
Okay.
And so we really started that afterwards. But we still did a lot because we kicked off the plantings in the concrete beds there. We worked with the Advisory Committee on Sustainability with the compost program. Mm-hmm. We did the Northern Heights Gardens. We cleaned out Amy Smile. We got donation from Jim Cameron for it. We got daffodils from the Garden Club. So there was a lot of things. And we upgraded the website, but we put detail on our page on the town's website about the work that we do. Mm-hmm. And then even though the Instagram account came after that, I just said, it sort of underpins the new Instagram account. Mm-hmm. And so I think it looks pretty good. And then I put some photographs in too. And so I think that's, I've got completely off track, haven't I? Anyway, that's one of the things that we can talk about anytime. I mean, I'm still around, and I'm happy also to help work on the beds as long as you need it, because I think those slopes will very quickly get very overrun if we don't keep them low. And I think last year I cut those plants pretty low. I think they have to be cut even lower, because on this slope by the Mowers Centre, it's so steep that even though they have good root system and they hold, when they get really tall, they just fall over. And then you think a plant is here, but that's just the head and its roots somewhere. It's sort of fallen. So I'm happy to help with that, so just let me know, and I can keep an eye too. And we still have one, well, we'll have two with my resignation, but we still have the other vacancy on the commission. And
Juliet, sorry, you're resigning as resigning off the board, and as not as president, but off the board also. So there will be a vacancy. I'm just making sure. That's what you're saying.
Yeah, I'm resigning as chair of the commission.
As chair, that's the word. I was like, I was struggling. What's that word? Our leader. Okay. And I'm also off the commission too. Okay, great. So and that, I guess we haven't. Have you heard any update on the other person?
No, I haven't heard any update on the other person, and I don't know, if the Board of Selectmen have any views, but as of now, you, Elizabeth, as vice chair, would sort of run until you decide who you want to have as chair. So that's something to think about in the next weeks, maybe before the next meeting. And if you haven't chosen someone, then I'm sorry.
Yeah, we'll talk about that.
Is there a parliamentary procedure for choosing a chair? Like, how does that work?
Well, I think you would just vote. You would decide if you have any volunteers. I mean, I'm looking at Tracy's initials on the on the screen here. Tracy is our treasurer, so she has a role. So I think you just need to think about it. I mean, our general rules are covered by the Roberts rules.
So Julia, because you're doing so much more work, like all this state work that you're doing now, you're really focusing on all of that now.
I am, and last year, I managed to juggle everything. I worked on a couple of working groups for the Governor's Council on Climate Change, and now I'm working very, very hard, trying, with a particular legislator, trying to push forward some legislation that would curb what we perceive as abuses by our utilities of the statute that allows them to do vegetation management, but it's gone so far beyond what the statute allows, which is why we have this mess on Littlebrook, and why we, based on the plan I've seen for this town for this year, there'll be even more. In fact, I have a call tonight where we're really going to try and hone in on the language that we need, and we just hope that we can get something passed this year.
Julianne.
Yes.
I think I just wonder if that whole Eversworth project on Littlebrook is in cahoots with Metro North. It's to their benefit to keep those lines here for the train,
Well, yes, I don't know what involvement MTA had there, but that is the ostensible reason. And there's so they've worked under the transmission line, and the transmission line is right next to the railroad. And
Right.
yes, there's a public safety issue. Once you mention public safety, then it's very hard to say, well, it doesn't need to be safe. That's you can't argue against that. But and sight lines too for drivers of the train. It's important. They can't not see where they're going because there's growth across the tracks or blocking their vision. But the scope of the loss and removals down there goes far, far beyond those issues. And the key for us, I think, is the fact that there's two things. One is there's a focus in the statute on dead, decayed, and structurally weak trees that would affect utility lines, power lines. That's one thing. But the utilities have been taking down healthy trees, mature healthy trees, which one of the things they do is filter particulate matter that comes from, as we've seen, from lawnmowers and from car emissions, from everything, all our greenhouse gases. And they do have a right, obviously, to do vegetation management, but what they've done is enlarge the area in which they work. And we think that appears to be in breach of the statute. And it just seems to me there's a disconnect. And they've sort of gradually just expanded what they're able to do. And for them, it may be the most cost-effective option. If you get rid of a tree, then it's not going to fall on a line. And you then don't have to come back each year and maintain it. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of cost saving involved too. And Eversource is a private company that has obligations towards its shareholders. So there are a lot of different issues at play here. But we know that trees are a massive, massive mitigation for climate change. Mm-hmm. And so if what you're trying to do is avoid outages in storms and trees falling on them, if you take the trees away, you've lost one mitigating factor in your fight against climate change. And the more you take down, the more risk you have, and the more the storms will be severe, and the more trees you'll have to take. It's just this terrible cycle.
Sure, yeah. It's a vicious cycle.
It is a terrible vicious cycle, and that's why it's very interesting to be now able to be trying to help draft something, and who knows if it'll get beyond the drafting stage, but it feels good to be trying, but it's a very time-consuming project. So yes, sorry, long story, that's what I'm doing.
Good.
And a few other things.
Yeah.
Okay. So,
one piece, by the way, is District 6 RTM.
Yes.
He happens to live on Little Brook. So, he could be someone, he also did litigation for AT&T. So, he could be a very helpful person for you on this pursuit.
And what's his name?
John Vesey, my brother-in-law.
Oh, right.
Yeah, so he was the Republican registrar up until this past June, but he is right on Little Brook, and he's been fighting Eversource on this for a while.
Oh, yes.
He could be somebody who might be helpful to you.
Okay, well, I'm sure he's involved in the local group, and they've been a lot of people there have been very helpful in writing testimony on other tree-related bills.
Right.
And that is incredibly compelling if you write or speak testimony at the public hearings. And
my other brother-in-law, Richard Whitehead, is on the Tree Conservancy in Norwalk.
Ah, okay.
I'm just full of trees.
You are very connected.
When they cleared so much along the train tracks at 95 in town, is it just going to stay like that forever? Like dirt? It's not good looking.
Yeah.
And I feel so badly for some of the homes that
Yeah.
water that for noise.
I think that's DOT. I think that's DOT rather than the utilities. But there's a companion bill that would try to put some limits on what the DOT is doing. That's very difficult because that's another, a state entity, so it's very
Yeah.
very, very difficult. And also, again, there's public safety issues, trees on the road, and they actually have a lot more scope in the current statute to remove trees than the utilities do. So yeah, but it's terrible to see when you drive down the Merritt or you drive down 95 and just the railroad's exposed. It's got to be horrible for the people who live nearby. Noise.
Yeah.
All right. We're going very slowly, aren't we? Okay, Alicia, this is update on Adopted Garden.
I don't have a digital copy of this because I just put this together last evening.
Thank you.
But I'll talk through it so they can follow along.
All right, so these are basically the results of the meetings that you
Yeah,
had.
so we met twice since we all last met as a larger group in December, and we're meeting again next month in March. So really what we focused on is we defined that there's two broad initial phases of this relaunch that we needed to tackle first. The first being preparing for outreach to landscapers. So in our meeting in January, we decided that the installation and maintenance of all 17 adopted gardens is best handled by one large landscaping company. So our goal is to have a contract with a company that will maintain all the gardens. So the benefits of that is it's less points of contact for us to be following up with, that there's accountability, using a company that has the infrastructure to maintain these, not a lawn guy, a company that ideally has local ties to Darien or is Fairfield County based. This could also allow us, if we wanted to create a cohesive look or theme around the gardens each season. So we generated a list of large companies to reach out to, and these were really just businesses that we see in our neighborhood and driving around, which I've listed here. I don't know if anyone else has suggestions or on people we could potentially reach out to.
One question I have, I think this is a really good idea. I think it would make the admin so much easier. Can you focus on people who do organic, or can you? I guess you could always request that they maintain the.
You can request.
Do you know companies that do that?
Well, it's so few. Actually, I think what you'll find is that some of them have organic kind of businesses within their business.
Okay.
So that's something you could ask, because again, if we're urging the town to go robotic, go clean, it would be all part of the same environmental underpinning. And what breaks my heart is when I see pesticide signs where our traffic islands have just been blitzed with something horrible, and they put the signs up just to get rid of the weeds. So I think if you, like for example, if you were going to put this out to bid and you have your list of people and you say we're putting this out to bid, I mean I would say this is a very interesting contract for any landscaper. This is, found work, isn't it?
Yeah.
And you've got basically the town paying, you're not going to be chasing up deadbeat customers. So the quid pro quo is there's some guidelines involved. And I would think you'd get a very good response. And I like my gardeners, but they're just too expensive. We used them before, and it just eats up our budget.
But just to clarify that, the town wouldn't be paying for cleaning up the gardens. We were thinking that the
No, but I'm saying we would presumably have a contract where we front and then we chase the gardeners. So as far as the landscaper is concerned, they've got a good credit.
Yeah.
And so I think it would be a very attractive proposal.
So if you think of any specific landscapers.
Yes, a few and far between, but and if
Let me know.
these are all good lists. You can just specify we will want. There's certain parameters. You're not going to. Please don't use chemicals.
Yeah.
And this is our sort of idea for a planting plan. And I think we've talked before that in order to have colour, you're going to have annuals. You're going to have some maybe non-natives, like lavender, but they're still pollinated plants. And if you could have them put in a few natives as well, it's less work for them, and you're guaranteed to have the best environmental result.
So we have been building a list of questions, and that is definitely all of that.
That's
in there.
great.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, you guys have worked really hard.
So on that, the next bullet point, Sarah's been taking the lead on building out detailed program information to provide to the landscapers in a brochure format. We talked about both print and digital. I'll skip that first bullet, but creating landscaper guidelines and timelines. The first year we realized is going to be more money and more TLC with it being new plantings. So we have questions surrounding kind of the financial piece of this, or even legal in terms of, creating a contract with, once we take this to bid, choose a landscaper. In terms of a contract, what do we need to do? I mean, that's a bigger question for later, but.
Well, maybe I mean, I don't know what the town would expect. It might be worth running something like that by Linda, who will say whether, or Linda or Kate Bush would be helpful. And there may be some kind of standard form.
Okay.
I mean, it'd be very good if we can be in control of the drafting and not get some standard form.
Yeah.
And then it can be presented as a town contract. Depending on the numbers involved, I don't know whether you have to get other approvals, but I'm assuming this would be, well, I don't know. We have to see what it would cost. And I also, we would have enough money in our, when are you planning on kicking this off?
When do you have to pay?
Well, I'll keep going. That made me think of one thing in terms of Public Works. We need to reach out to them because one of the requirements for the landscapers is insurance if it's on, and it differs where it's located.
Well, they need insurance, and also we probably have 1099s and for all of these because they've done work for the town before, but there's some administration you need.
Yeah.
And I'm just thinking if we had enough money in our budget to kick off for the first year, but you might have a 1-year contract and then renewal based on certain benchmarks that have to be achieved.
To answer your question, our goal is to have all of our landscaper information, requirements, etc., distributed to any prospective landscaping companies by 4/1. And a contract locked by 5/1. I don't know if that 5/1 date will be viable, because if we're bidding this out to, let's say we send it to 8 people and 4 are interested, I don't know turnaround time on their side, but so then my question below that is this doable? What season will be our goal to start with? Do we wait to have a good number of gardens sponsored, for instance, 3 or more, and install them at the same time? Because I know initially when this first came up in the fall, we talked about relaunching for spring, and then that seemed aggressive, but we've made good movement since then.
No, I think it's fine, and you can also do fall plantings, and I think that it's better to get it right, because then you'll only have to do it once and have the structure in place, and sometimes your plans can be informed based on feedback that you get anyway, and you've got, I suppose, a little bit of a chicken and egg, because you don't want to sign up a contract where we are on the hook to pay if we haven't got the sponsorship to repay us. So I think your question is really good. You probably want at least 3 or 4 known reimbursement avenues before you commit. And
there is that. Sorry.
Oh no, sorry. I was going to say is that I spoke to one landscaper early on in the process in sort of very vague terms, and their response was, "We would do this for you with a minimum of 6." So I think our thought is if we could maybe start, and not that we need to go with that exact landscaper, but let's use that as a generality. If we could find someone, if we could get enough for at least 6 gardens, start with that, and we'd always grow the program. So we'll see.
Well, and there's going to be some lag time too between getting the landscaper bid, because we need to know what are they going to charge for this maintenance before we can go to sponsors and give them their package price.
There's a lot of chicken.
So then there's a lag time of them signing up, sending the money, So, and then Jackie has also had some casual conversations with some landscapers and, just all the things that at least I don't know about how they work. Like one mentioned to her, they pre-purchase plants for the season. So in terms of costs.
And I think, yes, they do, and if they don't pre-purchase, then you're paying something more. But that's, that may not be the massive difference here. It's really not a bigger cost, the overall cost. But I was thinking that in a way, the most important thing is to, or immediately, is to make sure these gardens are clean and tidy. So even if you can't get the plants in, and let's say there's not a planting plan until the fall, and fall's a fine time to plant perennials anyway, or most of them, you could at least have them engaged in keeping them weed-free.
Weeded and mulched
yes,
this spring.
Because that's what has driven us all nuts, is just that they're so unkempt. And we'd be ahead of the game just doing that. Sorry, Tracy?
The lack of maintenance over the last few years.
Yeah.
Right.
It's a very good
And that's
point.
a great idea in the interim of having them weed, mulch, pull dead plants while these await sponsors.
And what I was thinking was, I didn't bring the numbers with me, but the Adopt a Garden account, we haven't spent anything from it, so it has some money in it where you might be able to, if you could do a contract with installments.
It's got $1,400. It doesn't have a lot of money.
Oh, okay, all right. Well, maybe we could use some of our line account for this, because this is an important project. And if we were to say do a contract, I think it doesn't make sense to pay up front because we won't get nothing done. So you want to sort of have some payments over time. And for our budget this year, so we get our new budget in June, end of June. We could do a first instalment just to keep things on track. And that ought to motivate as well.
Do you know, so regarding that for an interim plan, that we make the most out of time before everything's all locked and loaded. A lot of these curves, I noticed when I went to see them, and now, when I drive by, I'm looking, are broken, very, very faded yellow paint. Who could we talk to about, would that be someone in roads or?
Well, it depends on the road, doesn't it? I mean, Public Works may
It's state or town.
Yeah, it's but a
just
lot
on
of
the
these
town ones then,
Yes, that would
to
Public
do
Works.
some curb maintenance
Yeah.
and even for the retention of the gardens once it's planted. I mean, there's a lot where the curb is so broken down that, you're gonna have mulch all over
Yes,
or.
You have that issue at Norotan Heights too.
Well, yes, we do, but
That's Metro North.
that's Metro North, and then we have people walking over the flower beds too. So we thought we put in a path, and our landscaper said, "Well, you may want to rethink that because if there's any movement, somebody falls." Definitely don't want that. So I would make sure that whoever does it is, really knows what they're doing and knows if there's liability. So I think a conversation with Public Works is a good start. But some of them, I mean, like the one opposite Post Corner Pizza, that's sort of set back, that's a little less risky.
Yeah.
That's probably one of the better maintained ones.
Is that the one that has a couple of stone benches and some cement? So I took a picture of that because we took that side.
Very falling apart.
It's uneven. It's got moss all over it, and I thought, who power washes that?
It's all the landscaper because that's all.
Nobody. Well, is that maintained? I mean,
and we're right next to the fire station.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Right.
Isn't that maintained by the realtors? The realtor?
No,
company?
I don't remember who the sponsor of that one is, but that's.
I think it's Unger McCall, isn't it?
I'll look.
It's in my trunk.
But it must be town property if we're, able to offer it, if it's a garden. So I would think that Public Works could come and But I
Well,
agree with
no.
you, when I went, like even just safety wise.
Right, it looks a little dodgy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, I was thinking that was one of the easier ones.
Yeah, so anyways, I think in the
Yeah.
interim,
Just how
that,
costly are they?
I think that we could do a lot of just
Yes,
more
yes.
structural upkeep.
And that might be a good way to get them interested in the project. That's the first step, and then you do the planting plan. If not the fall, then the spring you have to work on it. But you've got them engaged.
Okay.
Give them some money.
So on that note about our garden locations and the list, I'm working on updating that. And then on the last page, this is just an example. So just first of all, using a Google Map Plus code that you can type in or hyperlink to know where each garden is, dropping a pin on a map that would show all the gardens on one map as well. Just trying to get it better organized, because we realized if you said to a landscaper, go to these 17 places, the way that it's been listed in the past, it's difficult to know when it's an intersection, but there's a lot going on, or if it's set back. So working on that. One thing we don't have that would, greatly affect it, the pricing that we receive back from the bids, is the square footage of the gardens, because a lot of them dramatically vary in size. So I don't know if that's something that when we send an interested landscaper around for bids that we want them to measure. I don't know that any of us are going to get around to measuring all of these gardens, because I feel like that's a valuable thing. I mean, it'll be reflective of the price to any sponsor if it's, one of our smaller gardens or a larger one. But depending on what kind of business it is, they're going to be more interested in perhaps something more petite than one of our bigger options.
Yeah, and location comes into it too.
Yeah.
Very much, visibility. So you maybe you price not just on size, but also, location.
Right.
High visibility.
So on this example of one I put, this is one of our best located ones because of its, proximity to Weed Beach, the elementary school, the churches, different shopping plazas. You've got the stoplight there, people sitting and looking at it, and there's a lot of foot traffic as well as vehicle traffic. So again, this is a very rough draft, but just trying to put together, selling points and giving the sponsors something that they can look at and flip through and pick which one that they would be interested in.
I think it's a good idea.
That's a great idea.
And then I mentioned Jackie had been making a couple phone calls to landscapers just to get an early temperature on their interest in working with us. Do you want to add anything?
They just are very eager to meet now to scope the project, and obviously they brought up the issue of plants will be much more expensive if they wait, and I have been begging off on giving them specifics because we're not quite ready to do this. But I wonder if we should get like an approximate square footage versus letting the potential contractor measure it.
I wonder who could provide that. I mean,
I'll just go out there with a tape measure. I can run around.
Well, why don't we divvy and conquer?
Yeah,
Why don't,
we could
if,
do
if
that too.
each of us took 3, we'd be done.
We'll be done.
Yeah. And
Just
then
be very.
But just take the widest point.
No, I
right?
mean, but you're in
some of them are
you're
tricky.
in the middle of
Yeah,
roads.
no,
Like some
I
of them
know,
couldn't
I know.
even get out for a photo, let alone to stand and measure.
Just
Yeah.
check with Public Works in case they might have
Or
something.
we could label small, medium, large, and
That's probably the
eyeballing
true-
it.
Yeah,
like,
that's a
very
good idea.
intimate.
They're funny shapes, so you won't get
Right,
That's true.
precision.
right.
Small, medium,
And small, medium, large, and ideal location.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't figure out right.
Exactly. Yeah, and I was actually thinking on the pricing, maybe we don't have like literally 17 different prices. We just have 3 categories.
Yes.
Yes, I think you'll go mad.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
great.
Yeah.
I think Alicia mentioned about sort of harmonizing the look and feel of these different gardens. And we talked about maybe refreshing those plants, and that those fixed costs will be heavy, which is what we're wondering, can we do a 3-year contract so that we can even out some of the expensive parts of the new plants?
Yeah, but then the issue becomes if you don't like them, don't like the landscaper or they're not really performing.
No, the sponsor.
No, the sponsor.
Oh, with the sponsor.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yes, the sponsor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I mean, hopefully we can supplement some of that with
Yeah.
our adopt a garden and maybe line item, just, because just, that's a lot to absorb for somebody.
Right.
It's like $1,400 doesn't go very far across 17 gardens, so.
Right.
Can't subsidize that much.
Right.
And
But we will.
don't forget, we have, on our slopes, we have lovely native columbine, which isn't a nuisance here. It's a lovely spring plant. So you've got beautiful red flowers. There should be lots and lots of babies this year, particularly on this steeper slope. And we have some seals probably too tall, but we have butterfly. We have what?
A lot about the woodpecker.
Yes, we've got pink coneflower, but that to me is a little bit troubling because it's deer food. You don't want to entice wildlife into these traffic islands. I think it could be a
Good idea, you're right.
yeah, a bit of a risk. But so I was thinking of the columbine. There isn't anything that really I can think of that likes to eat that. And then the butterfly weed, nobody eats that, but that's a wonderful pollinator plant because the monarchs will actually lay eggs on them, and they're low. They're maximum they're about this height. But again, I'm just saying that's a potential source, but you'd have to figure it in your planting plan.
Well,
the columbine probably wouldn't interfere with anybody's planting plan because they're ephemerals, they'll just go away after the spring.
These darn deer are eating roses these days. I mean,
Yeah.
they're really.
Yes. You're right, there's probably not much you can plant that if they're really hungry, they're not going to get. But I mean, deliberately,
At least try it.
yeah, signing it for deer is probably risky.
Okay, and then the second phase, preparing for outreach to current and prospective sponsors. So as I mentioned, we need to know what we're working with financially from the landscaping prices before we can present complete program information to sponsors that we would solicit. So our goal was to have a prospective sponsor list ready by April 1st. After that time, we would first reach out to current sponsors to see who's interested in recommitting, I should say. Reach out to new prospective sponsors. One thing that came up that I wanted to get your thoughts on were your thoughts on sponsors being from neighboring towns. So if you have someone who owns, their own small business in Norwalk, do we want it to just be Darien businesses sponsoring it, or as a more of a marketing, advertising outreach for someone who's not here?
Just before I answer that one, I just had a thought, which I have to say before it leaves my mind. If you are now having one landscaper sort of doing all the physical work, I'm wondering to what extent another landscaper would be interested in sponsoring, because they would be putting their name on someone else's work.
I think we wouldn't go to landscapers to sponsor.
That's what I'm saying. Okay, so you're not
We
going
will
to
reach out
to landscapers. So then you have to have a conversation with the current landscapers who are maintaining and say that this is going to be the new deal.
Yeah.
So effectively they're off. So and to me, if you're not a landscaper, this is a no-brainer. If you have an advertising budget, this is like permanent advertising in town and no work. No work, right? Somebody else is going to do this.
That's the hope.
This is the group that's in charge. So you've got kind of two. You've got a regulatory body, the Beautification Commission.
Yeah.
You've got a landscaper, and
you have to do is write a check.
the signage.
Yes.
So I think it's very attractive. Personally, I think it doesn't matter to me personally who's advertising, because it's all funding this initiative. But I don't know whether the town would have some sensitivities, and I think they would probably want you to prioritise Darien businesses. And you could, that might be another Kate Bush question, Linda question, but also if you work, one way to streamline it might be to just work with the Chamber of Commerce. Instead of calling one by one, work with the Chamber of Commerce, and they might have a sense of who would be most interested.
Well, I wonder if that's such a good point, if they have in-person meetings that we could present to.
Not only that, they have a newsletter that goes out as well. So, but Kesty Asa's in charge of them, so I could reach out to her about that and just ask if we could, once we
Yes,
are
later.
ready, if we could either send our presentation materials or send it, whatever, do a presentation, whatever. See, and definitely, Juliet, to your point, the thought was any Darien business gets priority.
Yes.
But it was just, if we don't get much traction, do we then branch out? But
I don't see any
hopefully-
downside myself, unless there's,
Yeah.
town sensitivities.
Because the town still looks beautiful, you know?
I
if
think
it's
you
a
need to
normal-
either live or work in our town,
Yeah.
one or the other. I don't think it has to specifically be a Darien business. You know, a lot of people are working from home these days. If they're a business and they don't have brick and mortar per se.
Alicia, do we want to just talk about the font also? and
Oh,
try to
yeah.
harmonize with that?
So wrapping up so this area is a little lighter because we've been focusing on the first piece
I'm sorry, I have to go teach a class.
Yeah.
All right,
Bye.
thank you,
Bye.
bye, take care.
of the landscaping information. I love that idea about the Chamber of Commerce and getting in their newsletter or being able to, give them a quick presentation in person. I pulled up new tenants coming to Darien Commons. They're all either franchises or national retailers. And I couldn't find anything for Corbin District except individually.
I have to make a phone call, I'll be right back.
Okay. But we can work on getting that too, because I know it's a lot of existing businesses just shuffling around, but I do know that there are some other, small businesses, like there's a
Yes.
hair salon in Greenwich opening there, a
Right.
sushi restaurant coming here.
No, that was great.
And then there's the 3-year commitment we mentioned for the sponsors. And then next time we meet, we'll probably have some questions just on the financial component of that. And then lastly, Jackie and Colleen met with Alpha Graphics in Stamford to get a quote for new signs. We had discussed, switching them after almost 13 years for some of them to be something more readable and a better marketing piece, perhaps like a white background. So, do you want to talk on your quotes?
No, I mean, not really, it's all in black and white
Yeah.
here. We haven't quite figured out whether enlarging it to be 12 by 16 or 16 by 24 makes the most sense, and it might depend on the garden size.
What's our current size?
12 by
12
16.
by 16, yeah.
Is it?
I think so. Those were the 2 quote ones.
Okay, so we asked them to quote to expand it 1 and 2 times. So we said, give us.
Okay, then we're smaller
We're
than 12
smaller
by 16.
than that 12 by 16.
Okay.
We're more like
8 by 12 then?
8 by 12? No, 8 by 12 is a photograph. Our signs are
Well,
bigger.
yeah, like
it is
this.
bigger, right?
Yeah, it's got to be bigger than that. But you might. No, I've completely forgotten the name of the.
But we wanted to
company.
harmonize that font was the point, because
Yeah.
the town is starting to do its own,
Yes.
changing it, and we're just not sure where they are with their process.
Yeah, no, I think that's all good. But again, once you've got one benchmark pricing, you might want to just check
Yep.
with other companies just to see, just to be sure you've got the best quality for the best price.
I know that Colleen reached out to Hungwell Signs to ask for a similar
Oh, good,
quote,
good, yeah.
and apples to apples, so for
Good.
these 2 different sizes. I don't know where that is.
It's probably not going to be that much different, but it's
Yeah, you
it's
never
a good
know.
exercise. Yes, yeah. People are, really
then
All the
anxious
things you're
business.
supposed to do at your home.
Actually, and then Sarah talked to somebody about signage for the town.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, I did
Yes.
want to discuss that under like other business.
Yes, yes. So I brought up in a previous meeting about our town signs.
Yes.
Reached out to the town and was told that those they had a budget for it and they'd be looking at it in the spring. I followed up recently and I was told the same thing. They have, I guess they haven't done anything yet, was the message as I read it. So I reached out again just to find out if we could coordinate so that the signs all appear similar, and I haven't heard back. So I don't know what else.
Because our signage is completely different to the
Completely
to the
different.
signs, yeah.
And if the town is being, and I personally think our town signs, not only do they look run down, decrepit, I think they're stylistically very old fashioned
Yeah.
and could need an upgrade.
That may be
So
what Kate's working on.
yeah. So
Or just coordinate with with them. I don't know whether
Do you know her?
Kate, not that well, but I'm thinking.
Like signs like that.
Yeah. It's also not that readable, is it?
It's not readable, no, and it's like yellowed and
It-
something's
there-
missing.
So
that
even if it was refreshed,
No,
that wouldn't be
correct.
that readable.
I don't even, yeah.
Well, and I was curious, it seemed like this would be like replacing signs would be something that could make sense to fall under our commission or,
Well, not without a change in the budget.
yeah.
Of course, yeah, we
A
can't afford,
significant change in the
we
budget.
would have to
but-
sort of acquire the whole budget
Yeah,
associated with
well-
it.
But if Kate is the person in charge, who else, like, what other department, or is she just doing it on her own likely, or?
Well, she is the town administrator.
And
Town administrator.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I don't really know what that means.
Well, but she would work with, Public Works would install, so there's
I
some.
touched base with Jeremy Ginsburg.
There's a
Zoning.
Oh yeah, Jeremy might, maybe, or I think Ed, Public Works would be the one to cement them into the ground, like they did for our sign on the slopes.
Yeah.
But I guess there's.
I'm talking about as far as regulations on the size and the height, it would be there at zoning. I believe.
Oh, you're right. For us, you mean?
Right.
Yeah.
It just seemed like a cross-functional partnership opportunity for us.
Well, I don't know. There's two things. If the town isn't going to change its style, let's say they're going to keep that, we don't necessarily want to follow that. I think.
Right. I know.
But if there's a dialogue, then we could agree with them what looks good for the town, what looks good for us, and then the question becomes: do we want to be? Well, assuming that the town signs are kept separate from us, do we want to follow those? Or do we want to have something more distinctive that is clearly Beautification Commission versus the rest of the town? I think it's
we'd like them to look good, but it's nice to look unified with the town. So.
Right, so depending on what Kate's thinking about, maybe refreshing those and updating them to be a little bit more modern, then I guess you either go along with that if you like that, and if not, you do something jazzy.
Has she answered on whether they would be replaced or refreshed?
No, nothing since, my first email, she said nothing has changed since we last communicated. And then when I followed up with more, I haven't heard back. So I'm assuming she's overwhelmed and this isn't top priority. Which I get.
Yes, because they're in full budget.
Pardon me?
They're in full budget mode right now.
Yeah.
See, I feel like if we could be
That's
a partner with them on that, it could and would be our priority.
Exactly. So I haven't heard back. So I don't know how much to push. I don't know if anybody has a relationship with her. And be nice to meet and just say, hey, look, I get it.
Just pop up after the
Do you
meeting.
think that's a good idea?
Do you know where she is?
No, but you can find, she's probably near the first selectman.
Okay. So it's Kathleen, and it's Bush or Buck? Or Bush?
I think Prince.
B-U-C-H? Okay.
B-U-C-H.
Yeah. Kathleen Bush.
And does she go by Kate commonly?
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay, perfect. Because I think it'd be so nice to have it all cohesive, look cohesive. Great.
And then I know, is Amanda on? No, I don't think so. Amanda's
Amanda
not on.
had an 11 o'clock.
But she has a friend who is a graphic designer. I know that because we talked with her once before about the logo. She's pretty expensive. She was going to charge $2,000 for the logo. We think she need a logo. So I don't know. Just what's your budget?
I think she already owns the logo.
Yeah.
She
had the logo. Amanda said, yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Or the friend did it.
Yeah, no money is owed, and even when we were meeting once, she shot her a text and the person sent back something with a modification, so I don't think that would be additional cost.
Okay. I can't remember what it looked like.
I believe it's a friend of hers.
Yeah.
Or,
yes, it is.
I have a picture of it. I think it looks great.
But we have, right now, there's various different things. So on the current adopted garden sign, there's some kind of flower design. And then what we did, when we did the signage on the slopes, we created a butterfly, a monarch butterfly that's above the name. And I mean, I have if anybody wants those, I've got PDFs of those. That can stay as is. I mean, that's kind of a standalone thing anyway, because it's not following it. That's more of an educational sign, so you don't have to use that. But just this stuff gets expensive. If Amanda's funding it, that's fine.
Yeah, I think the modifications were being done at no charge. What's your advice after all your time on this committee in terms of like the scope of this and working with everyone and implementing it? What do you think are reasonable goals for us in terms of timing?
Well, I think because you are revamping and you're doing something that's quite different from anything that's been done before, I think you should just be kind to yourselves. And I think it's better, like I said before, I think it's better to get it right. And the thought that you've put into it is so extensive and detailed that I think you've got a clear sense of where you want to go and what you want to achieve. And I just think by saying, well, we're going to do this by 4-1, you're going to go into a kind of panic mode. And, it's tempting then to cut corners, right? I think if you can say, we're going to achieve this one way or another, these are our ideal timelines, but it may be realistic for reasons outside of your control, not because you're not dedicated, but because of the pre-purchase of plants, because it takes time to speak to sponsors, because the landscapers are starting to gear up now and they'll take their time to get back to you. And I think if you just have even if you hadn't got this fully fleshed out, if you had a landscaper that could at least tidy up in the interim, you're already ahead of the game. And if maybe you alert the current sponsors that you're revamping the program, so that they're not caught unawares, because they will start, well, the landscapers at least will start working on their beds. And maybe you say, okay, for this year, for the sponsors who are landscapers and who do work, let them know what's happening, and maybe have them continue until, just ask them to just maintain.
Right, we talked about giving some of those, like Mateo, other ones that are currently sponsoring, like a first right of refusal, or certainly letting them put a bid in. So that's one thing I'm wondering about meeting with Carolyn, even if she was like, yes, totally interested.
Well, we're just getting a cost, right, to start the cost process.
Yeah.
Right?
It's so far from knowing what the existing ones that are doing a good job, like Mateo was doing a good job.
And he's new, he's still motivated.
Yeah, younger.
And he loves the advertising for his business. He's
right.
Really enthusiastic.
But that's a good point. We'll have to let those landscaping companies know that we're moving forward. Sponsors of the gardens are going to be local Darien, not landscapers. I guess we have to do that in
But actually that's a good way to say that what you're doing, because then if you give them the right of, well, it's not actually a right of first refusal, because you're not necessarily going to choose it, but you give them priority bidding status.
That's much better said.
So Mateo Ungamak.
Yeah, Mateo Unganak.
Well, Richard Jones is also on here, isn't he?
Yeah.
They're one of them, but they're the sprayers. They're about
Growing Concern has a few.
Yes.
I reached out to Growing Concern. I have not heard back. But I heard back from Costello and Carolyn same day.
Oh, great. Carolyn is, which one?
Carolyn Dart, she's not on that list.
Okay.
It's on there as Kent Designs.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
okay.
that's their company name.
Okay.
Oh, and every year we get a donation to the Adopt a Garden Fund from American Recycling Technologies out of Long Island. We think they're behind this is all historic for us, but we think they're behind the Stop and Shop Island.
Oh.
And I have to go up after this to get that check. But Tracy, what should I do with it? Tracy?
So you think they pay?
She gets back.
That's signed as that developer.
I'm having Windows installed, so I keep muting myself.
That American Recycling Technologies check is here. I'll go up and get it after the meeting. Should I
has
just,
to go into that gift account.
oh, the
I'll
gift
give you that
account.
gift account.
Oh, yeah, it's all changed, hasn't it? Well,
Yeah.
when are you back?
Well, I don't know, end of March, maybe.
Well, I might just
April.
keep the check till you get back, because remember you have to do that form. I've forgotten about that, but there's no, because the gift is related to Adopt a Garden, so even though it's not in the Adopt a Garden fund, it is money that we can
Actually,
use
you know
for
what?
this.
Maybe we should put it in the Adopt a Garden account.
Yeah, we could transfer it.
How
from
much
the-
is it for
It's not that
typically?
much, isn't it? Just 500 or something?
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, it's
Oh,
a couple $100, not huge.
oh, a couple of hundred, okay.
Oh.
Well, it's a few plants, isn't it? It's better than
Yeah.
not having a couple of $100.
Do you think they even
What's our
still
first
realize they cut this check to us, or?
Somebody cuts
Anyway.
it every year, yeah,
Yeah.
we write a thank you note, don't we? And it's mysterious. When I first started, I didn't have any idea. Why is someone in Long Island sending us money?
So
Yeah,
funny.
it was kind of odd.
But there's some relationship that obviously.
I don't
makes
think
sense.
it's Stop and Shop, I think it's the Good Wife Shopping Center.
No, that's what I mean. I think of Stop and Shop there. The Good Wives thing.
Stop and Shop's out of Boston, but I think it's the Good Wife Shopping Center, the owners of that.
Oh, I see. So not the island.
Well, that's signed as Erstat Biddle.
Yeah.
What's that connection to the
I'm not positive
recycling?
though.
Okay.
I don't think I am.
I think that's what we had all concluded, that somehow it's something to do with
Yeah.
Good Wives.
Yeah, you can send me a copy of the check when you get it.
I'll do that. Yes. I'm going to go
I
out in a
will
moment.
try and research it.
Okay.
The Flat Roof Building.
All right.
And I'll see if maybe I can, research it and then revert back out. Okay.
Hey Colleen, can you put yourself on mute? Amanda?
Colleen, could you mute?
I think it's Amanda.
Oh, Amanda?
It's
Amanda's
like
not on.
Amanda, but it was on Collins. I
really?
swear, yeah.
Oh.
I know, I thought it was the same thing.
Okay. Well, I think this is fantastic. Really, really excellent work. I should look forward to seeing them.
It sounds like it's really starting to come together.
Yes.
It is a lot of work.
Yeah.
And
I-
I should definitely commend it.
Yes, absolutely. And I think, your reward is just to pace yourselves and not
Yeah,
try
it's good
to
advice.
do an artificial schedule.
Yeah.
Because this is a huge contribution to the structure, a massive contribution, a massive improvement. And I think you should all be very proud of it and just go with the flow, and it will, the timetable will set itself, and if the whole thing isn't complete till next year, so be it.
Right. I think you can implement it over time. I don't think it has to,
Yeah,
hard
there's
fast July 1st date or something like
yeah,
that.
because I think it just makes you frantic, but I think that you can make some marginal improvements as you go, especially as word gets out about what's happening and what the system is.
Exactly.
Great.
And maybe, I don't know if any of the materials that Sue gave us that are useful. Is that that was when Beautification was fronting everything. So
Yeah.
I don't know.
I know you have the brochure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Might be helpful, just to borrow from them.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, we actually borrowed everything. And
Yeah.
we borrowed a lot from it for
yeah.
the new one.
Because
and
you
put it in a
can see
new format.
similarities, but
Yes,
this is
for sure.
taking it to the next level.
Yes, absolutely, yeah. I had taken photographs of it.
And they actually, as sponsor, will need some of that contact information too for the DOT stuff. For those properties.
Oh, I don't
Like,
think there's any.
We
Metro
would give
and
them
things
all
like
of
that.
that. We would give them like a packet, We
Yeah.
wouldn't rely on them to have to contact
Figure
the
it out,
DOT.
Well, you have to know that they've got the right insurance. You
Yeah,
have to
I
know.
have that for
Yeah.
Okay. I was like, I have not
insurance,
seen
yeah,
anything
I
about
have
that. Okay. Okay, good.
Oh, and for anybody who's, any of us who are walking onto those islands, I do have some high-vis jackets.
I have my vest from
I have
a vest.
the fall.
Oh,
We got those like yellow vests.
oh, I've already given them to you.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, good.
I have that Fine Beauty too.
Oh, I gave them all to you. Okay, all right, good.
Tracy, I have a question regarding the hanging baskets. Could you just remind me, so I can mark it in my calendar, what is the day that we meet I feel, is it a standard date every year?
It's usually the Thursday before Memorial Day weekend.
Okay.
But it does move, doesn't it, sometimes?
So, yeah, we chose that Thursday because that way I can get Public Works, because everybody's off on Friday, and it's a holiday weekend and nobody wants to do this on Friday. So generally we do it the Thursday before, and I'm not sure what that exact date is right now off the top of my head.
That's good. I just couldn't remember and wanted to pencil it in.
Here's a thought.
Right.
This might be mad, but what's the name of our guy? Elder. Elder wouldn't have the capacity to take this on, would he? He's incredibly reasonable, he's incredibly dedicated, and I'm thinking if he's going around watering, he's awfully close to the islands.
I think we're looking for, like, again, getting away from kind of the lawn guy, independent approach and the bigger company who would have capabilities like the watering, but that also, is like a landscape designer and knows a lot about plants.
Yeah, that's what Elder. Yeah.
Right.
But
I think you're right. I think there's too many moving parts for one person.
But might be
Some of the islands are
in 3
small,
years.
some are, quite sizable, like, the one on Ledge Road. That's a pretty good sized island. But the one that Paw Prince used to have by exit 11, that's a pretty good sized island.
They're big.
So, yeah, on both sides of 95 there, there's 3 of
No,
them.
but you're right. If you're looking for someone with more, diverse skills, I think that would be different. Yeah. All right, just a thought. Okay then.
Actually, they make gas powered equipment then.
It'll be so quiet around town without that stuff.
But you won't hear it over I-95.
No, that's true.
Wait, can I ask one more question since Tracy's on the phone? Tracy, do we have any discretion over the colors that are chosen in the hanging baskets?
Yes.
Or do you get what you get?
I'm sorry, what was that?
It's just asking, Jack is asking if we have any discretion over the colour in the hanging baskets, and I sort of had the same question, Tracy, last year, because I was upstate New York, and they had the most amazing baskets of deep purple and yellow. I mean, wild. It was. And
No, we can definitely change it up. I mean,
Are
it's
they
too late for this year.
petunias? Is that what it is?
It's in the works, but send me some pots, and by next September or October, I'll start talking to the nursery.
Oh, so you've already ordered this spring
growing them,
ones?
there's so many,
Okay.
yeah.
Do you switch the colors every year? Or are they the same? I've never noticed.
They're always the same. I don't know, Tracy, if you know this, but I have something at the back of my mind that says somebody in town, Paul, really loves those colours.
Which colours?
The ones we have, the pink. It's kind of a red, white, and blue.
I think we should change it.
I don't think that anybody's going to.
It'd be fun to
But if we
vary
it
it.
grows at all, let's see if we could change the color. I mean, you never know if they're a big greenhouse. They could, they might have, a lot of options.
Right.
Well, we can't do it for this year, though. That's the problem.
Okay.
They've already growing. They've been growing since December.
Is it
But
worth
they're not just
asking,
growing
or
for
it's a
us,
definite?
I think
probably
it'll
growing for a bunch of other.
It's 200 baskets.
Yeah.
I can't ask them to change
Yeah.
the order. Point. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Understood.
Yeah, but next year we can definitely look into that.
Is it worth? Well, maybe Tracy, you don't want to do this, but is it worth having the person who does it just zoom in and we can ask questions? Well, not me, but you guys can ask questions. Just a thought.
Maybe.
You're right.
So, yeah. So, anyway, okay.
All right. So this is excellent. So you're done. Fantastic. And then, all right, I've got to get back to the agenda. Is it beach cleanup?
Yeah, we can do that next.
Well, actually, I had
Or you wanna
budget
do budget
next,
next?
but
Whatever you want.
Tracy said there's basically no changes since last month. Isn't that?
I forgot to actually physically prepare the report for the meeting today. I apologize, but there aren't any changes to it, so we're pretty good. I'll
All right.
send it out there.
Okay, that's great. So this. Okay, Sarah had raised this very interesting idea that she had seen in Florida, I think, where you have a wooden station that holds buckets, and then people visiting the beach are free to take a bucket and pick up trash from the beach.
Yes, so I'm happy to talk about that. So I had seen this, just exactly what you said. I sent this around to our group, and then at the same time I had a friend who's on Park and Recs. So I reached out to her directly and just said, hey, what do you think about this idea? Would you guys want to talk about it? She had just stepped off the committee. She sent it to Pam Geary and Lori.
Mm-hmm. Good, because I was going to suggest doing that.
And they loved the idea.
Yes.
I suggested to them, but there was some email back and forth. I'd suggested, we'd be happy to, if in any way, help in any way, we just manpower, whatever, idea generation, calling sponsors, etc. And then Pam wrote back and said, actually, I think we can manage this by ourselves. It seems pretty manageable.
Oh, budget
so I don't know. We didn't get into a budget discussion, but I said we were happy to help. I didn't want to just pass it off.
I do think that is something that would be very good for the commission to contribute to if we have enough money in the bank. The way I had that prospective spending, we had a little contingency, and you could always change it up. It was just ideas for how we would spend the money. Maybe you could consider putting the name onto the
our logo on the bucket.
Exactly.
Okay, on the bucket.
Yeah.
Do you know there's a risk of buckets with
overhead if you're just buying?
So you're
buckets.
you have to build the structure, and we have to somebody has to decide where they should go. For example, in Florida, it was pretty clear because there are these stairs down onto the beach, and so at the entrances of those, they have these. Whereas our beaches, you kind of can wander on from multiple places. So you probably have to determine where those stations would go. And I'm imagining buckets disappear.
I was just going to say that, but
I'm picturing
vandalism or
taking them for sand castles.
Yes, there's that, exactly. There's that. So there needs to be some kind of signage as well, like what these are for.
On the bucket.
Yeah, on the bucket. Exactly.
Well, this is another.
Which is fine, just put them back.
But if the town does that, presumably they will send. It'll go in on the website. It'll go in the newsletter. It'll go on Instagram. So there should be enough. Maybe in the newspaper there'll be enough noise around it that people will understand that it's.
Well, we could even print besides our logo, please return.
That's exactly right.
Large.
Yeah. Yes. Exactly.
And, I was thinking of beautification on the wooden.
That could be something to have a conversation with Pam Gary.
Yes.
How it works.
But Sarah's already spoken. Yeah, Sarah's spoken to her, and she's very much in favour of it. And also, she will. If she's in favour, then she knows those things have to be emptied every night too, or every morning. And Parks and Recs go down there early morning anyway, sweeps the beach.
Yeah.
So this would just be. Well, I don't want to minimise it, but they would then include the tipping of the rubbish that's in those buckets.
Well, I think the intention is that people who collect the rubbish put the rubbish in the bin that's right next.
Oh right, they don't just leave it in the buckets. Okay.
Well, that's how it's described. That's how I saw it enacted in Florida, and that's how it's described on their website. You collect it. The wooden container is right next to a trash can, so you dump it
that
and put it back in its little
Yes.
slot. So there would be a trash can right next to this wooden structure.
So it's kind of obvious.
So it's all kind of obvious, hopefully.
They don't put liners. They don't put liners in the trash cans at the beaches.
Yeah, I know.
And lifeguards have to physically pick the garbage out of the trash cans to put into black plastic bags to throw out.
Wait, the lifeguards do that? Well, I thought Parks and Recs entered the bin.
I see Park and Recs do it. I talk to them every morning.
Yeah.
The lifeguards empty it during the day to put in the black plastic bags. But yes, Park and Rec does.
Why don't they just
put
use
it in the
liners?
trash can at the next morning.
That seems
But it's
just like
it's
an
crazy,
easy process.
that they have to handle it.
Well, I'm personally not in favour of plastic, so I don't have anything
I keep mine loose.
not lined, but that's a whole different issue.
Yeah,
But
that's.
I think this is great. If you've talked to Pam, she's on board, then I think it's just a question of figuring out who makes them, launching a campaign about it.
Right. I mean, Pam said, we can handle this. So I said, well, let me know if we can be involved or help. That's the current status. So,
Well,
I'll follow up.
If you want the beautification's name associated with it, then,
Yeah.
you know, a contribution from our budget. I mean, she would never turn down
Yeah.
an offer of money, I'm sure, and then you could justify having our name on it.
I
Great,
think
and
it's
how
such
much?
good advertising
Yeah.
for us, and it was
Yeah.
your idea.
Yes.
Yeah, how much can we give and what is the process? Is that something?
Well, I think if Pam is running with it, she's presumably going to find out total cost. You get that number from her and figure out what would be a fair contribution
Okay,
in exchange for having our name on it.
okay, great. Great, I will follow up with her on that, and we'll keep it hopefully going. I think hopefully it's pretty straightforward.
Yes.
Oh, and you know, I
do.
have
Really?
2 photographs that I think are really good. I had framed. There was an exhibit here when we were doing the plastic bag ordinance, and it was all about waste, plastic waste. And so I went down to the beach very, very early one morning with my partner, and we photographed and we put the trash, all the plastic, over one of those Adirondack chairs. And then we put a lovely picture of a clean beach and a crab next to it, so it's a whole kind of collage thing. And I can lend those to you and to Pam if you want to have those in town hall as a sort of a backdrop to this is what's happening at the beaches, and just have those as sort of, you know, to explain them. They're self-explanatory, but there's still a lot of trash, even though public works, so it's really hard picking it up.
Yeah.
It gets dropped during the day. It comes from the water too.
Exactly.
It's deposited on the beach.
This would be a good time to do that, actually, because people will start to come in May 1st for beach stickers.
Yes, yeah.
Might be something to put right outside of Park and Rec's office so people see it.
Yeah, all right. They were hanging here for a while. I'll bring them back, and then you guys can have them.
No.
All right. So, anything else?
I have another really random question, but I get not really random, but I get the newsletter from the first select person whenever she sends that out. And I noticed our meetings weren't on the whole
Me
list.
too, but like sewer commission.
But all the other, I didn't make sure it was all the others, but multiple other commissions meetings were listed, but not ours. Is there a reason for that? I didn't.
And it seemed very inclusive of other commissions. That's
It
why
did.
I remember like sewer was on there.
I will. I'd be happy to, but I didn't want to go out and do that and have you say no. You know.
No,
I just thought,
I'm running up there because
Is that
I'm gonna pull it
Linda
up.
or who?
well, I've been running up to see Linda. I've just given a print of
Sometimes
the
it's
map of
based
Marianne. I'll
on
give to the town.
No, I think
It was the whole
for
month
of
work.
February.
It was the month of February, and we were smack in the middle of 2 other meetings.
Yeah.
And ours wasn't listed. So instead of, I actually had just reached out to Linda about my spelling, and she was great, got it done immediately. So I didn't know if I should just reach out, but I thought, before I do, I'm so new, I don't know what I'm doing.
So
Maybe
what?
there's a
So it
reason,
was fixed. She knows now.
No.
No, I didn't fix it.
Just Sarah's name got fixed.
My name got fixed on the website. It
I see.
was off. Sorry, I'm trying to look up this.
I deleted
All right.
it.
So I'm
Yeah.
going to go up in a minute anyway, and I'll just mention it.
Yeah, but it'd be nice if I could find the email for you.
It's the one that goes out, I believe, on Thursdays.
I know. I've been dropped from the list. So.
Wait, make a look at spam. It was going to my spam for
maybe
a
that's
long
what mine
time,
is.
but
I thought maybe because we didn't meet last
Maybe
month.
that's where my other emails
no,
go.
I noticed
No, it was for
before
this
it hasn't,
month.
and last month, or not last month, but I've noticed we're never
Oh, we
on
cancelled
it.
last month.
Yeah,
no,
we've
we
never
canceled,
been
but
on
it was
it.
this month's. It was the list of this month's meetings, and we were.
Well,
on
you
there.
know, when you do your Adopt a Garden relaunch and we have robotic mowers and new buckets
People
at the beach,
listen.
we'll be on that list. We rate.
Careful what you wish for.
Yeah.
Here we go. I found it. I'll send it to
Okay.
you.
That's all right, I believe you. I'll just.
Yeah, no, it's just helpful to have it in hand.
Yeah.
Say we're not here.
Okay.
Yeah, it was
All right, well,
upcoming meetings.
so thank you, everybody. I think I'm leaving this in great shape, good hands. So
We're gonna
good
miss
luck.
you.
Yeah.
No, you're not.
How long have you been on this commission?
Just over 3 years.
3 years.
Yeah.
Is that what a term is?
Yes,
I
yes,
forget.
I'm slightly
3
over,
years.
and I don't think they officially renewed me anyway, so it's fine.
So do
If I get bored, I'll come back and
Yeah,
just be a regular member.
Do-
But
yeah.
if I get appointed. What, darling? What did you say?
I said, we've had you that long, huh?
Yeah, yeah.
That's yesterday.
Well, yes, because you were already on, weren't you, when I joined?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And did you create the pollinator pathways here?
Yeah, not as part of the beautification, but a separate
Organization,
initiative.
yes, yeah.
And that's still going, but I mean, that's a lot of work too. And last year we had interns, and they helped us with the invasives on the burn. But just a month of interns and finding them projects each day. Things come up. I mean, there was the Great Island public hearing last year, so we had them speak, and that was quite fun because they really think about the issues then. And then they did a presentation for us, and I think we put a link to that on the website. So it's still, in my mind, it's all interconnected. But yeah, all right. Well, I think, let me just call for a motion to adjourn then. It is quite late this morning. It's 10:52. All right, so motion to adjourn?
Yeah.
I'll prove it.
Okay, all right. Sarah?
Seconds.
All
Or
right.
a motion.
Either way.
Yep.
Everyone's in agreement, we should stop. Thank you, thanks, Channel 79.
Thanks, everyone.
All right, take
Have a
care.
great day.